You watch this news all weekend long on cable? Just endless. Looping of video, political hacks, media hacks. You learn anything from these people? Now, we have a memo from the prosecutor, Rachel Mitchell. She's a sex crime prosecutor of decades. And I was the only national, figure who told you that she did an excellent job. The only one. All over our favorite cable channel, the senior judicial analyst, trashing her. What's this, a courtroom? What's this? Well, what the hell do you want it to be? We already have a Roman Colosseum going on here. She methodically. The problem was this 5-minute rule, but she overcame the 5-minute rule. We discussed this at length, not once, but twice last week. Now they're all saying, oh, did you see the memo? Did you see the memo? Honestly, even before we saw the memo, I went through what this prosecutor did. I took notes. I put some of it up on Facebook and Twitter, and we talked about the gaps. Dr. Ford is not credible in the least when it comes to Brett Kavanaugh. Zero. Brett Kavanaugh, by every standard, at least within the United States, you have to go to the old Soviet Union. By every standard, he's an innocent man. And the disgusting media never disappoints. One slob after another. And these nighttime comics with their weird Tourette's and all the rest. Every damn one of them. A clown. And not funny. You know, Dr. Ford is credible. She's not credible in the least when it comes to Brett Kavanaugh. Why do they keep saying that? How is she credible? Incredible is better. Now, the FBI investigate. Well, it needs to be longer. We got 23 witnesses. You got to go where it is. This is a pathetic joke day in and day. And this guy Flake. See how he's being celebrated now by the libs? This guy is a liar. He's a narcissist. And I'm going to prove it to you later in the program. Stick with me. We are the point of the spear. Trust me on this. We are the point on the spear. And I want to thank you, my beloved audience. Again in New York. The highest 12-plus hour in the whole city. In terms of talk radio, that is. The highest 12-plus hour on WABC. The two highest 25, 54 hours on WABC. In L.A., no different. The three highest 12-plus hours and two of the highest 25, 50. Now, that doesn't mean anything to you, and it shouldn't. But in our business, it means a lot. We were moved to 11 p.m. Eastern Time on Fox last night. And honestly, I'm not happy about it. That better not keep up. I'm just giving my own opinion. Because I don't do this because I need it. Because I don't need it. I do it because I'm trying to do my best in my way to save the Republic. And one more hour of, hey, did you hear what Saturday Night Live said? Or what do you think of this one or that one? I mean, you're ready to blow your brains out. How about a real analysis of this stuff? Rather than regurgitation, rather than repetition. You understand the media are exploiting you, right? They keep using breaking news, headline news, breaking news. There's nothing breaking and there's nothing headline. Nothing else has happened. So what I do on this show, and what I have done on the Fox show, and what I do on LEVIN TV, and I really enjoy LEVIN TV. I hope you do too. What I do is something a little different. I treat you with respect. I treat you like you have intelligence. Not this constant dumbing down with big mouths. This Rachel Mitchell, she was superb. Superb. I think a lot of people were jealous of her. These judges, these guys who were judges, they were the lowest judges in one state or another trial. All of a sudden, they're constitutional experts. They're experts on all things. They're experts on nothing. Nothing. She broke down the case. If you paid attention, she made mincemeat out of Dr. Ford. That's why they keep talking in generalities about all women, all sex crimes, all mental suppression and repression. And I don't want to talk about all. I want to talk about this right here in front of us. Dr. Ford comes forward on July 6th. Waits 36 years. 36 years. Comes forward on July 6th. That's not suspicious to anybody? Guy's been a judge for 12 years. Guy was on the Ken Starr prosecution team for 4 years. Guy was at the Bush White House. Never said a word. Not a word. Not a word to anybody. Then he's nominated to the United States Supreme Court. All of a sudden, here's my civic duty. Wait a minute. There were parties in front of the D.C. Circuit Court for 12 years. There were rulings, over 300 that he wrote. He was involved in over 1,000 of them. And all of a sudden, her civic duty on July 6th? What happened to her civic duty on July 5th? Oh, yes, I'm allowed to ask these questions. I'm allowed. What do you think, Mark? Nothing happened? No, I believe something did happen. But I think she's wrong about who the perpetrator was. And I think at this point she probably knows it, which is why she doesn't know who drove her home. There's so many gaps. You understand, if you don't have witnesses or corroboration or evidence, you can't even get into a courtroom. You understand that, right? So now, notice how it's changed over the weekend. If Brett Kavanaugh lied about his drinking, wait a minute, lied about his drinking? Lied about his drinking. If he lied about his drinking, Mr. President, shouldn't he? They're worried about drinking on Capitol Hill. There's a bunch of sloshes and drunks and all kinds of things on Capitol Hill. But isn't that an interesting standard? If he lied about his drinking when he was in high school or college, that's it. These politicians on Capitol Hill, they lie all the time. They lie about getting rid of Obamacare. They lie about securing the border. They lie about taxes. They lie all the time. But that is okay because that's part of their quote-unquote profession. So I got to thinking to myself, who was one of the biggest drinkers? Winston Churchill. Big smoker, big drinker. Winston Churchill. These mental midgets who call themselves Democrats in Congress couldn't hold a candle to Winston Churchill. And they can't hold a candle to Brett Kavanaugh. And look, I'm still not 100% sure he's a Scalia type or a Thomas type, but I know he's not a Ruth Bader Ginsburg type, and right now that's fine by me. Because this, like the battle over the election to protect the president from a coup, is the same damn battle. It's the same damn thing. Look how half your country wants to throw due process out the window. Look how half your country wants to throw the presumption of innocence out your window. Look how half the country wants to use a high school annual as a basis for destroying a man. We are not required to follow the insane off the edge of the earth, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when we return, let's look at, again, some of these details that demonstrate that Dr. Ford is not credible as applies to Brett Kavanaugh. And I keep hearing also that the Democrats have done her no favors, ladies and gentlemen, that they have exploited her. That may have been true early on, but it's not true now. It's not true now. And this guy, Jeff Flake, he's a bad hombre. He is a dishonest man. And I'll get back to him later. We'll be right back. Let me see if I understand this. If Dr. Ford has a score or two score of inconsistent statements, she's credible. But if Brett Kavanaugh, Judge Kavanaugh, said something about his drinking days that's inaccurate, he's toast. He's denied the Supreme Court. Do I have that about right? Now let's go through the prosecutor's memo like Sherman through Atlanta. Just stick with me. No offense, Atlanta. She writes, Dr. Ford has not offered a consistent account of when the alleged assault occurred. In a July 6 text to the Washington Post, she said it happened in the mid-'80s. In her July 30 letter to Senator Feinstein, she said it happened in the early 80s. Her August 7 statement to the polygrapher said that it happened one high school summer in the early 80s, but she crossed out the word early for reasons she did not explain. This is because the lawyers get a hold of her, you see, and they're trying to make sure everything's consistent in order to get Kavanaugh. A September 16 Washington Post article reported that Dr. Ford said it happened in the summer of 1982. Notice, July 6, mid-'80s, July 30, early 80s, August 7, early 80s, but then crosses out early, but September 16, when she's being lawyered, the summer of 1982. Wow! She not only remembers the year, but she remembers the season. Similarly, the September 16 article reported that notes from an individual therapy session in 2013 show her describing the assault as occurring in her late teens. But she told the Post and the committee that she was 15 when the assault allegedly occurred. She's not turned over her therapy records for the committee to review. And yet, ladies and gentlemen, she's waived any privilege she has on those records because she either gave them to or read them to the Washington Post. There is no more attorney-client privilege. But she's withholding them. Why? While it is common for victims to be uncertain about dates, Dr. Ford failed to explain how she was suddenly able to narrow the time frame to a particular season and a particular year. Now, let's say the shoe was on the other foot and it was Kavanaugh. Would they tolerate that and say, wow, he's credible? No, they wouldn't. This is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. Early 80s, mid-80s, early teens, late teens. That's not memory loss. Dr. Ford has struggled to identify Judge Kavanaugh as the assailant by name. No name was given in her 2012 marriage therapy notes. No name was given in her 2013 individual therapy notes. Why not? Dr. Ford's husband claims to recall that she identified Judge Kavanaugh by name in 2012. By the way, before I read on, that's her husband. That's irrelevant. At that point, Judge Kavanaugh's name was widely reported in the press as a potential Supreme Court nominee if Governor Romney won the presidential election. In any event, it took Dr. Ford over 30 years to name her assailant. Delayed disclosure of abuse is common, so this is not dispositive, she writes. She's nicer than I am. When speaking with her husband, Dr. Ford changed her description of the incident to become less specific. Dr. Ford testified that she told her husband about a quote-unquote sexual assault before they were married. But she told the Washington Post that she informed her husband that she was the victim of a physical abuse at the beginning of their marriage. She testified that both times she was referring to the same incident. Dr. Ford has no memory of key details of the night in question, details that could help corroborate her account. We talked about this last week. The memory to me is quite selective. Specific details that are most harmful to Kavanaugh, no details at all on corroboration. She does not remember who invited her to the party or how she even heard about it. She does not remember how she got to the party. She does not remember in what house the assault allegedly took place or where that house was located with any specificity. Perhaps most importantly, she does not remember how she got from the party back to her house. Her inability to remember this detail raises significant questions. She told the Washington Post the party took place near the Columbia Country Club. The club is more than 7 miles from her childhood home as the crow flies, and she testified it was roughly a 20-minute drive from her childhood home. She also agreed for the first time in her testimony that she was driven somewhere that night, either to the party or from the party or both. But she couldn't remember. Dr. Ford was able to describe hiding in the bathroom, locking the door, and subsequently exiting the house. She also described wanting to make sure that she did not look like she'd been attacked. But she has no memory of who drove her or when. nor has anyone come forward to identify him or herself as the driver. No one. Given this all took place before cell phones, arranging a ride home would not have been easy. Indeed, she stated that she ran out of the house after coming downstairs and did not state that she made a phone call from the house before she did or that she called anyone else thereafter. That's convenient because then they can't look at phone records. She does, however, remember small, distinct details from the party unrelated to the assault. For example, she testified that she had exactly one beer at the party and was taking no medication at the time of the alleged assault. Now, we'll continue this after the break. But as I said last week, during the course of this questioning by this prosecutor, it was devastating. And there we have the experts, judicial analysts and hosts. What is she doing? What is she doing? She's screwing up. This doesn't mean anything to the American. It means everything. Everything as it did to you. Stop listening to these morons. After she testified, they said Kavanaugh's done. He comes up, he's not done. Then they tell you this woman's incompetent. Incompetent? She's the most competent in the room. I'll be right back. So Dr. Ford has had 4 different accounts on when this took place. The years. 2 accounts on how old she was. 2 sets of therapist notes that don't name Judge Kavanaugh. No explanation whatsoever for how she got to where she got to, how she left, where she left. She doesn't remember who invited her to the party. Doesn't remember how she got there. Doesn't remember how she left. Those are important details, I'd say. But she knows she only had one beer and was not on any medication. So she remembers those details. Now, Dr. Ford's account of the alleged assault has not been corroborated by anyone she herself identified as having attended, including her lifelong friend. She's named 3 people other than Judge Kavanaugh who attended the party: Mark Judge, Patrick P.J. Smythe, and her lifelong friend Leland Kaiser. And by the way, the media have twisted over the weekend what Kaiser and her lawyer put out there. Twisted it, when in fact it changed nothing. The drunks and the perverts in the media have twisted all this. And oh yeah, there's a lot of drunks and perverts in the media. A lot of drunks and perverts in Congress. A lot of drunks and perverts in the Democrat Party. Some in the Republican Party, too. And Dr. Ford testified to committee that another boy attended the party, but she couldn't remember his name. No others have come forward. So no driver has come forward. Another boy has not come forward. None of the people she named could corroborate what she said. And in the case of Leland Kaiser, her lifelong friend, she doesn't even remember meeting Kavanaugh. Does it get any weaker than this? Does it get any more insane than this? All 3 named witnesses have submitted statements to the committee denying any memory of the party whatsoever. Now, this is interesting to me. Now, they submitted those statements, I assume, under penalty of perjury. So they better hope that their statements that they're giving to the FBI are consistent with what they've told the committee. See, the way I know an investigation normally occurs is there's not all this publicity and so forth and so on. So witnesses who have shaky memories and so forth and so on, they start to clarify, quote unquote, their thoughts because of the media attention, because of lawyers, because of partisans and so forth and so on. So it gets harder and harder to get to the truth. But it'll be interesting to compare what they provided to this committee and what they're saying to the FBI, wouldn't it? Most relevantly, in her first statement to the committee, Ms. Kaiser, her lifelong girlfriend, stated through counsel that, quote, simply put, Ms. Kaiser does not know Mr. Kavanaugh, and she has no recollection of ever being at a party or gathering where he was present with or without Dr. Ford, quote unquote. In a subsequent statement to the committee through counsel, Ms. Kaiser said that, quote, the simple and unchangeable truth is that she is unable to corroborate Dr. Ford's allegations because she has no recollection of the incident in question. Moreover, Dr. Ford testified that her friend Leland, apparently the only other girl at the party, did not follow up with Dr. Ford after the party to ask her why she had suddenly disappeared. Now, let me just stop you there. Let's just do it this. The preponderance of the information so far leans in whose favor? Mr. Producer, seriously, whose favor does it lean in? Kavanaugh, hands down. Hands down. Dr. Ford has not offered a consistent account of the alleged assault, writes the prosecutor. According to her letter to Senator Feinstein, Dr. Ford heard Judge Kavanaugh and Mark Judge talking to other partygoers downstairs while she was hiding in the bathroom after the alleged assault. But according to her testimony, she could not hear them talking to anyone. So in her letter to Feinstein, she heard them talking to others. In her testimony, she could not hear them talking to anyone. In her letter, she stated, "I locked the door behind me, both loudly stumbled down the stairwell, at which point other persons at the house were talking with them," quote unquote. But she testified that that Judge Kavanaugh or Mark Judge turned up the music in the bedroom so that the people upstairs could not hear her scream. She testified that after the incident, she ran into the bathroom, locked the door, and heard them going downstairs. But she maintained that she could not hear their conversation with others when they got downstairs. Instead, she testified that she assumed a conversation took place. Notice she never said she turned down the music either, that any of them turned down the music. Her account of who was at the party has been inconsistent. According to the Washington Post's account of her therapy notes, there were 4 boys in the bedroom in which she was assaulted. She told the Washington Post that the notes were erroneous because there were 4 boys at the party, but only 2 in the bedroom. In her letter to Senator Feinstein, she said, "Me and 4 others were present at the party." In her testimony, she said there were 4 boys in addition to Leland Kaiser and herself. She could not remember the name of the 4th boy, and no one has come forward. Dr. Ford listed Patrick P.J. Smythe as a bystander, quote unquote, in her statement to the polygrapher and in her July 6 text to the Washington Post, although she testified that it was inaccurate to call him a bystander. She did not list Leland Kaiser, even though they are good friends. Leland Kaiser's presence should have been more memorable than P.J. Smythe's. Dr. Ford has struggled to recall important recent events relating to her allegations, and her testimony regarding recent events raises further questions about her memory, raises further questions about her credibility, because we're talking about things that are recent, a few months ago, not 36 years ago. Dr. Ford struggled to remember her interactions with the Washington Post. Dr. Ford could not remember if she showed a full or partial set of therapy notes to the Washington Post reporter. She does not remember whether she showed the Post reporter the actual therapist's notes or her own summary of those notes. The Washington Post article that portions of her therapist's notes were provided by Ford and reviewed by the Post, but in her testimony, Dr. Ford could not recall whether she summarized the notes for the reporter or showed her the actual records. Actually, it was even more, and I took notes during the testimony, too. She thought she may have summarized them over the phone or couldn't remember whether she physically handed anything over. I mean, it was really preposterous. We're talking about July 6th. She does not remember if she actually had a copy of the notes when she texted the Washington Post WhatsApp account on July 6th. Dr. Ford said in her first WhatsApp message to the Post that she, quote, had therapy notes talking about, unquote, the incident when she contacted the Post tip line. She testified she had reviewed her therapy notes before contacting the Post to determine whether they mentioned anything about the alleged incident, but could not remember if she had a copy of these notes, as she said in her WhatsApp message, or merely reviewed them in her therapist's office. Now, wait a minute. So she couldn't remember on July 6th if she had downloaded a copy of her therapist's notes, or had reviewed them in her therapist's office. Does anyone believe that? She's providing information to the Washington Post, and she can't remember a few months ago if she downloaded them from the internet or if she had reviewed them in her therapist's office. Can you imagine if Kavanaugh said this about drinking back in high school? I can't remember if what drinking that night. I don't remember if I had 3 cans or 6. I don't remember if I had 2 or 4. Then we can hear Comey saying, little lies are a big thing. So I would ask Comey, and I would ask Blumenthal, Mr. Vietnam vet not, I would ask him, is a little lie? What does that evidence have? They say, more lies. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you this is not a memory issue. This is an attempt by her lawyers, and I think her now, to put a round peg in a square hole, or square peg in a round hole. You get the point. It makes no sense. This was July 6th. It wasn't 36 years ago. It wasn't even 6 months ago. Dr. Ford refused to provide any of her therapy notes to the committee, and that is outrageous. They should be subpoenaed. She waived her privilege on these therapy notes. Dr. Ford's explanation, and by the way, I'm sure Shelley Whitehouse, the Rhode Island school. What are we supposed to do? Rely on a letter? We can't rely on a letter. That's a lawyer's trick. We need the actual evidence, by God. By the way, I'll have another drink. Wait a minute, not in the public. Dr. Ford's explanation of why she disclosed her allegations the way she did raises questions. She claimed originally that she wished for her story to remain confidential. But the person operating the tip line at the Washington Post was the first person, other than her therapist or husband, to whom she disclosed the identity of her alleged attacker. She testified that she had a sense of urgency to relay the information to the Senate and the President, quote unquote. She did not contact the Senate because she claimed she, quote, did not know how to do that, unquote. Oh, it's very hard to contact the Senate. You could what we call Google. You could call what we could Bing. You could what we call even 411. You could call or ask one of the people on the beach who you consulted apparently frequently. Millions of people contact the Senate every year. We have our LEVIN surges. Go ahead and Google the phone number for the Senate. It's right there. She did not contact the Senate. She did not explain why she knew how to contact her congresswoman, but not her senator. Dr. Ford could not remember if she was being audio or video recorded when she took the polygraph. She could not remember whether the polygraph occurred the same day as her grandmother's funeral, the day after her grandmother's funeral. Again, these are all recent. It would also have been inappropriate to administer a polygraph to someone who was grieving, says the prosecutor. Dr. Ford's description of the physiological impact of the event raises question, says the prosecutor. She maintains that she suffers from anxiety, claustrophobia, post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. The date of the hearing was delayed because the committee was informed that her symptoms prevent her from flying. But she agreed during her testimony that she flies, quote, fairly frequently for her hobbies and work, unquote. She flies to the mid-Atlantic at least once a year to visit her family. She's flown to Hawaii, French Polynesia, Costa Rica. She also flew to Washington, D.C. for the hearing. Note, too, that her attorneys refused a private hearing or interview. Dr. Ford testified that she was not clear on whether investigators were willing to travel to California to interview her. It therefore is not clear that her attorneys ever communicated Chairman Grassley's offer to send investigators to meet her in California or wherever she wanted to meet to conduct the interview. We've pointed all these points out. They're important. She alleges that she struggled academically in college, but she's never made any similar claim about her 2 years of high school. It's significant that she used the word contributed when she described the psychological impact of the incident to the Washington Post. Use of the word contributed rather than caused suggests that other life events may have contributed to her symptoms, and when questioned on that point, said that she could think of nothing as striking as the alleged assault. In other words, she wouldn't add to it. And the prosecutor adds, the activities of congressional Democrats and Dr. Ford's attorneys likely affected Dr. Ford's account. And she attached a very detailed timetable once the lawyers and the Democrats got a hold of events. I'll be right back. Even without the presumption of innocence against the accused, Judge Kavanaugh, even without due process against the accused, Judge Kavanaugh, he's an innocent man. I just listed to you at least 20 examples. 20 examples of contradictions, of gaps, of flat-out wrong information. And to me, Christy Blasey Ford's allegations against Judge Kavanaugh are absolutely unwarranted and without any merit whatsoever. She may well have been molested, but not by him. And there's not a jury anywhere that would fail to see it the same way. And actually, it would never get to a jury. That's how preposterous these allegations against Brett Kavanaugh are. So now we need a longer FBI investigation. And what the Democrats do is they use law enforcement to advance their political agenda. That's why we have this guy, Robert Mueller, right now. That's why they want this extended FBI investigation. First they said, oh, look, the Anita Hill thing. It took the FBI 3 days. What's the problem? Now it's, well, a week's not long enough. And we got 23 other people we want to investigate. These are not people of goodwill. These are people who are slime balls. They're slime balls. It's dripping from their every pore. And the fact that MSNBC and CNN take these slime balls and give them airtime tells you that they're slime balls too. For instance, this memo, other than ridiculing Rachel Mitchell, all the cable networks did. Other than ridiculing her, how many of these cable networks have actually gone by, like I have, every one of her points, point by point by point by point, and demanded that other guests who insist that she's convincing and credible, have them explain them. This isn't convincing or credible. When it comes to Judge Brett Kavanaugh, it's not convincing or credible. There's nothing here. Zippo. Nothing. I have an idea for a few more witnesses, Mr. Producer. How about Dr. Ford's parents? I don't even know if they're still with us. How about any of her siblings? I don't know if she has siblings. Well, why does that matter, Mark? Well, it matters a lot. I'd like to know if they ever heard of Brett Kavanaugh. Why are we only looking at one side of this thing? Why should we go along with this? I'm not. I'll be right back. The media in this country, the propagandists for the Democrats, the propagandists for the radical progressives. The radical progressives were born out of Marxism. You see the entire thing taking place with the Alinsky tactics, the destruction of the civil society, the burning down of our history, book burning, if you will, the burning down of our traditions and customs, the devouring of our culture, and, of course, their Politburo, the Supreme Court. That's the way they view it. And I just want you to think about something. These attacks on Trump, these attacks on Kavanaugh, these attacks are attacks on you. It's because these people share your values. The case of the president, he's promoting policies that you support. The case of Kavanaugh, he largely holds the same philosophy that you do, that a judge should actually embrace and enforce the Constitution of the United States. I've written so many books and we've had so many shows on how progressivism and constitutionalism simply are incompatible. And you're seeing it break out here. The difference is the left is violent. They were violent in the 60s. What about the Klan, Mark? The Klan was an outgrowth of the Democrat Party. The Klan was an outgrowth of the Democrat Party, and as recently as 1924 was a big part of the Democrat National Convention. And in fact, listen to this one. The first individual that Franklin Delano Roosevelt nominated to the Supreme Court was named Hugo Black. Hugo Black was the lawyer for the Klan in Alabama. And he flew through confirmation as the Democrats controlled the Senate big time under FDR. Hugo Black, a lawyer for the Klan. The Klan has always been an apparatus, an apparatus of the Democrat Party. Always. There's no history between the Klan and the Republican Party. None. It grew up after the Civil War. Continued the resistance. A hateful, nasty, murderous bunch of thugs. And they numbered in the tens of thousands at one point. Now, when it was pointed out at some point to Franklin Roosevelt that, hey, Hugo Black was a lawyer for the Klan, you know what he said? Oh, I didn't know. He didn't know? And so here we are, ladies and gentlemen, dealing now as a modern society with all kinds of civil rights and so forth. Here we have now a gentleman who they're looking at his yearbook, the extent to which he drank, and so forth and so on. Yes, that's very very compelling. Now, there's theoretically breaking news here, ladies and gentlemen. A Kavanaugh college friend is speaking out. Oh, that guy's an idiot. Who cares? How many of us know people in high school and college who would love to screw us? I'm serious. Who cares? Why don't all these people come forward and tell us about Mazie Hirono, who I never even heard of till 3 weeks ago? Mazie Hirono? Or come forward and tell us about the molester, Cory Booker, who confessed about molesting a woman in 1994. As I said the other day, the only person in that room who's confessed to molesting a woman is Cory Booker, and he's asking questions. The idiot from Connecticut, as we talked about last week, Bloomberg, or whatever the hell, Blumenthal, who lied about serving in Vietnam. The irony's lost on the fool. When he says, well, if you lie once, you know what that means. Well, what does it mean, Senator? You can get elected from Connecticut? Look at these clowns. Feinstein, for 20 years, is a Chinese spy driving her car. She has no idea. Clueless. Moron. Little Dick Durbin attacks American soldiers. Remember that? He's on the committee. Every nitwit, every half-wit among the Democrats is there on that committee, the Senate Judiciary Committee. Why? Because they want to control the courts. That's why. Case closed. Now, our media friends, virtually all of whom are of the same ilk. This was caught by Breitbart. It's a good catch, too, by Justin Caruso. Following Lindsey Graham's passionate defense of Judge Brett Kavanaugh, many on the left took to making homophobic attacks against Graham. Now, I looked all over Media Matters, and I didn't see any of this, ladies and gentlemen. Media Matters? What is that? A left-wing kook operation, which exists to keep these left-wing nutjobs in office and to try and destroy any media that doesn't speak for the left-wing nutjobs. So now we have all this homophobic stuff going on, attacking Lindsey Graham in the media from Hollywood. And crickets. Crickets. Lindsey Graham, who's unmarried, has occasionally been derisively accused of being gay by critics and pundits who engage in homophobia by using homosexuality as an implicit insult. After Graham strongly defended Kavanaugh this week, the same homophobic jokes came back in style among liberal comics and establishment media figures. Rosie O'Donnell. Where was I? Rosie O'Donnell started the hate train Wednesday, calling Graham's closeted idiot, quote unquote, a closeted idiot, after Graham sent a tweet defending Kavanaugh. I very much believe in allowing people to be heard, but I am not going to be played, and I'm not going to have my intelligence insulted by the Michael Avenattis of the world. I will not be a participant in wholesale character assassination that defies credibility, Graham tweeted. Rosie O'Donnell, I didn't even know she could type. She replied, and I won't say the word, F you, you closeted idiot. This is patriarchy exposed. This is reality. Deal with it. Oh, there's the senior judicial analyst. Honestly, the guy's been wrong on everything for the last week, hasn't he, Mr. Producer? Kavanaugh, it looks like he's done because Ford's testimony was unbelievable and credible and so forth. And then the prosecutor in this case thinks she's in a trial. But what kind of analysts are these? I'm just being honest. Comedian and far-left activist Kathy Griffin. I didn't even know she was still with us. Also joined in on the gay bashing. Oh, looky here. Miss Lindsey Graham doesn't have the you-know-whats to speak today, does she? Good one, Kathy. Do you remember that SNL skit about this? The person, Pat. Remember that skit, Rich? Pat? Female or male? I think that was Kathy Griffin. Just saying as a joke, of course. On Thursday night, Jimmy Kimmel, now this guy has an IQ of a kumquat, accused Graham of fabricated outrage at the hearing, adding he warned Democrats that if this is the new normal, if this is the way it's going to go, better watch out for their own Supreme Court nominee, as if Merrick Garland isn't out there somewhere judging a dog show right now. Kimmel then engaged in gay bashing, comparing Graham to Liberace, a famous gay performer. And once he got some camera time, quote unquote, somebody must have told Lindsey Graham that Donald Trump was watching because he lit up like someone lit a thumbtack on Liberace's piano bench. Now keep something in mind. Jimmy Kimmel is as dumb as a doorknob. They don't write their own jokes. They have like 10 comedians. And this is what they come up with. This is what they come up. This is a guy who abused women, who harassed women, anything for a buck, right, Kimmel? Kimmel and bits, and bad bits at that. First, he's got the vapors, Don Lemon said in mock Southern accent, referring to a joke where women who were said to have the vapors if they were acting hysterical or irrational. Good, Donnie. Good, Donnie Lemon. There you are, piling on. And I thought you said that you were a homosexual, so why are you attacking Lindsey Graham, who hasn't said anything? Because, folks, liberalism, progressivism, statism, it comes first, before religion, before ethnicity, before sexual, whatever it is. It comes first. First. And it is to die for, you see. It is to die for. The left is a hate crowd. Look at all this sleazy media behavior. Here's a piece, Bloomberg.com. Kavanaugh college visit to bar erupted in fight, classmate says. 7:02 p.m. Eastern time. Now, what's the problem? This is a quote. His detailed account of the melee couldn't be independently corroborated. So they publish it anyway. And this college professor says former classmate and the NBA player Chris Dudley was with Kavanaugh. And Dudley is on the record saying what an outstanding guy Kavanaugh is. So in other words, but back to this piece. Kavanaugh college visit to bar erupted in fight, classmate says. No corroboration. They even say it in the piece. It's like NBC going with an anonymous letter that the Democrats on Capitol Hill leaked to NBC. They go with an anonymous letter. And now they just interviewed, what is her name? Swetnick? What is her name? Swetnick. Abaloni's. I know, I'm kidding. Mr. Producer keeps correcting me. Avenatti's client. You want to hear this? Go ahead, Rich, play it.
I was at a party, and I remember that I started not to feel very well. And next thing I know, I was shoved into a room, and I'm having my clothes torn in different directions. I was touched everywhere. I was physically assaulted in every way you could possibly physically assault a woman. It was horrible. I had no way to fend them off.
You know what I'm going to ask. Everyone is wondering if one of those people was Brett Kavanaugh.
I cannot specifically say that he was one of the ones who assaulted me, but before this happened to me at that party, I saw Brett Kavanaugh there, I saw Mark Judge there, and they were hanging about the area where I started to feel disoriented. And
what the hell is this? I mean, honest to God, folks, we've gone from 10 gang rapes over the weekend. She's in college. She goes back to this high school, these parties. Now it's, well, they were in the area. They were in the area? Go ahead.
And where the room was and where the other boys were hanging out and laughing. I could hear them laughing and laughing.
The hell is this? And the Democrats are insisting that she must be interviewed and anyone else out there must be interviewed. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. They all must be interviewed. Everybody interviewed. Isn't it fascinating? No, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Flake is disgusting. Collins is disgusting. Murkowski, disgusting. The Democrats on this committee, there's not one who has a soul. Not one. We know why they're in it. They're in it for power. Power alone. All right. Let's see who's out there. I've just been kind of burned up about all this stuff, which is why I'm jumping in. Let's see. Let us go to Jerry. Austin, Texas, Sirius Satellite, go.
Yes, Mark, you stole most of my thunder today with reading that memo. However, look, I've been a trial lawyer for 39 years, and I'm really incensed by the likes of Andrew Napolitano, who spews this politically correct nonsense about her being credible. I would have to say that she is probably the least credible witness that I have ever seen on the stand.
Mm-hmm. What would you do to a witness like this? Would you be told, all women believe this, all women that, you're not allowed to bully? Is that what you would do if she were on the stand accusing your client?
Look, absolutely not. I might not initially attack her like I don't attack police officers anymore. However, as I've told some of these people that are friends of mine on Facebook who say that women have to be believed, well, what's next? All whites have to be believed, all browns, all blacks? That's total nonsense. I mean,
yeah, when you're in a courtroom or in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, you're dealing with individual human beings. Individual human beings. I'll be right back. Let me throw this out there so the backbenchers on cable TV can regurgitate it, but it is important that they do. Dr. Ford, Ms. Ramirez, none of the accusers, not one of them, not a single accuser has filed a criminal complaint. Why is that? These events are said to have occurred in Montgomery County. The Montgomery County Police Department. The police there are wonderful. The leadership there is the usual crap left-wing types in a crap left-wing political environment. But that said, they said they're prepared to take complaints. Why hasn't Dr. Ford brought a complaint? Why hasn't Ms. Ramirez brought a complaint? Why has not a single accuser against Kavanaugh filed a criminal complaint? Not a single accuser against Brett Kavanaugh has brought a civil lawsuit of any kind. Not then, and they haven't figured out how to bring one now. And I'm going to tell you why. Not a single accuser wants to be subjected to our justice system. This is a justice system, our court system, that has a jury of their peers. This is a justice system that allows depositions under oath. This is a justice system that provides for interrogatories under oath. It is a justice system in which the accused is allowed to question the accuser through his attorney without any politics involved, without any concern about civil rights or other rights that are proclaimed by the left or proclaimed by the accuser. It is an individual matter where individual parties litigate. Does Dr. Ford not want that? Or it's an individual case where the state or the county prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Does Dr. Ford not want that? Does Ms. Ramirez not want that? Do any of the accusers not want that? You see, ladies and gentlemen, this is what's going on here. The ridicule of this man, the humiliation of this man, the absolute destruction of this man's character through innuendos and allegations. Crazier by the damn day. Not one of them want to subject themselves to what happens when you make an allegation like that in our legal system. Not one of them. It's much better for their lawyers to be leaking. It's much better for the politicians to be giving their 2 cents worth, such as it is. It's much better for the legal analysts to be commenting all damn weekend long. Are you watching it day in and day out? Have your eyeballs popped out of your heads yet? I was watching mostly HGTV, to be honest with you. I guess I'm the only one. And you'll get more of it today and tonight and tomorrow night before there's any news, actual news. But isn't it amazing that with all the lawyers involved, there's not a single accuser who's filed a criminal complaint? Not one. Because if you file a false criminal complaint, you can be charged with a felony. Or maybe they're afraid that a case will be taken, or it'll go to court, and they'll lose. Why haven't they filed a criminal complaint? And then they talk about, we want an FBI investigation. You know why they do that? To fool you. So you think there's actually a criminal investigation going on here against Kavanaugh. That there's a real live criminal investigation. No, there's not. This has nothing to do with a criminal investigation. I will be honest with you. I suggested to 2 senators on the Senate Judiciary Committee that they ask Dr. Ford why she doesn't walk into the Montgomery County Police Department and file a criminal complaint. You know what those senators said to me, Mr. Producer? Nothing. They ignored me. Well, what if she does? Good. What if Ms. Ramirez does? Good. Instead, we get reporters, we get people giving their opinions, we get this. I started this show with a real live prosecutor who sent a memo to all the Republican senators laying out a huge list of indiscrepancies, of memory lapses, of contradictions respecting Dr. Ford. Crickets. Nobody gives a damn. Before that, she was trashed. Mueller's great. She's an incompetent. Incompetent my butt. She was great. These are facts. So why didn't Ms. Ford's Dianne Feinstein handpicked lawyer, Debbie Katz, take her client's hand and walk into the Montgomery County Police Department in Maryland? They dare not do it. They dare not do it. Or Ms. Ramirez's lawyer. They dare not do it. Or the rest. They dare not do it. Instead, just keep them. We need an FBI investigation. Isn't it interesting that the 3 stooges of the Republican Party, Collins, Murkowski, and Flake, not one of them said, I'd feel a lot better if she'd actually filed a criminal complaint. I would have felt a lot better. How come they didn't say it? Because they're frauds, that's why. Now, you'll hear this now on Fox, I'm sure. Tonight, somebody will bring it up. Some former prosecutor or whatever. That's okay. I'm used to this. But it's an important point. You see, because in a court of law, Mr. Kavanaugh does have the presumption of innocence. In a court of law, there is due process. In a court of law, if it's a criminal case, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. But as prosecutor Rachel Mitchell said in her paper, there's not even a preponderance of evidence here. And I would add, there's no evidence. So we have a circus. We have the Roman Colosseum. And everybody's gathered. Because now the lions are going to kill the Christian. Just throw Kavanaugh in there. Throw him in there. Everybody's excited. Everybody's cheering. What do you mean due process? Due process? He's up against the lions. What the hell do we care? What do we care? These phrases, innocent until proven guilty, apparently they only apply to Al-Qaeda terrorists and mass murderers, not to a federal judge. Not to a federal judge. You got Frank Rich, that putz, tweeted, Kavanaugh's bragging about coaching girls basketball is troubling in retrospect. And why is that, Frankie? Why is that, you sniveling moron? Or Judge Legum, whoever the hell that is. In retrospect, Kavanaugh using a girls' basketball team as a prop during his confirmation hearing doesn't seem like a coincidence. Really, Judd? Another sicko. Another sicko. I can go all down the list. Our so-called free media. It's not a free media. It's an unfree media. The way they cherry-pick their stories, their partisanship, it's obvious to everybody. Even the people who watch these carbon footprints, CNN and MSNBC, they know they're partisan. That's why they watch them, all 12 people. But I go back to my point. I always have to say these things 5 times or so, just to make sure even the media hear me. Not a single accuser has filed a criminal complaint where the statute of limitations would not have run and has not run in Montgomery County, Maryland. Not one. And I'll tell you something else. One of the reasons they think they can continue to say the most outrageous, sickening, insane things about Kavanaugh is they know he's a federal judge and they know he seeks to be on the Supreme Court, so they know he will not sue them for defamation. And if he sued Dr. Ford for defamation, she would lose. Even on a public person standard, she would lose. She has no evidence. If he sued Ms. Ramirez, she would lose. If he sued Avenatti and his client, they would lose. You can't accuse people of the most vile things with no evidence, with no witnesses and no corroboration. It's a slam dunk. Now, it might take a few years, but they know he won't. They know he can't, given his interest in still being a Supreme Court justice and eventually, if not, returning to the, staying on the D.C. circuit. These accusers and their lawyers and the Democrats in Congress fear the legal system. Fear the legal system in this case. And they should. I'll be right back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you know this is about white male Christian privilege, right? Oh, yes, I know this because we keep hearing this on MSLSD and the Constipated News Network, CNN. Well, when Clarence Thomas was being attacked like this, is he white? That was a black male Christian. Or how about when Sarah Palin was attacked? Well, she's a white female Christian. How about Herman Cain? Remember what they did to him? There's another black male Christian. I could go on. Don't buy this. Oh, white male, old white male, white Christian. Oh, blah, blah, blah. These people are sick. Sick. That slob. Well, slobs, plural. Little Dick Durbin's a slob. He's an old white male. Christian, I think. Oh, no, we don't mean leftists. They're okay. They're all right. We don't attack them, their race and their religion. A friend of mine writes me that Montgomery County Chief of Police, the county state's attorney, says that under the laws that existed in 1982, the approximate time the allegations made by Dr. Ford, assault and attempted rape were both misdemeanors subject to a 1-year statute of limitations. Well, that's true, but they also said the other day that they're open for any complaint that wants to be filed, and they're happy to investigate it. So, go ahead and file your complaint. Who's stopping them from filing their complaint? But they're not going to file a complaint. All right, let's take a few more calls here. Let's see. Let's go to Lisa. Brainerd, Minnesota, XM Satellite. Go.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. I had a question. I wanted to ask your opinion on whether or not the FBI can be trusted to investigate the Kavanaugh case, given the history of the Hillary investigation.
Well, people have asked me that question, and I think we'll see at the outcome. I think what you're going to see is the Democrats, if they're unhappy with the outcome, they're going to start attacking the FBI. They're going to start attacking it as it's not a fulsome investigation. They're already doing it. Not investigating enough witnesses. The president's slimming it. So these people are not to be taken seriously. These people are to be steamrolled.
Yeah.
So that's the best I can answer.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you got it. Jim, New York City, the great WABC. Go.
For taking my call, Mr. Levin.
You got it.
I would hope that somebody could implore our Republican colleagues to stop using the term credible.
First of all, they're not my colleagues, I can tell you that. But anyway, go ahead.
All right. The Democrats did a brilliant wordsmithing job by substituting the word credible with the word sympathetic, or vice versa, actually, the word credible for sympathetic. Her testimony, Dr. Ford's testimony, was sympathetic, but it was not credible on any objective level. She did not present any information corroborating her story. The witnesses refuted her claims, and there was no information provided that was substantive of any nature to support what she said. I'm not...
And quite the contrary, as the prosecutor points out, there's a lot of serious questions to be raised, and I think they were very, very lucky, and the Republicans very foolish with this 5-minute rule and cutting her off. They were listening to some of the analysts on Fox and other cable stations saying she's not scoring, that people aren't paying attention to this. I think Napolitano said it. I'm not attacking him. I'm just making a point. It was very frustrating for me at the time, and I pointed it out last week. They're dead wrong. She's scoring points, quote unquote. She's making points that are very, very crucial, and we are understanding what she's saying.
I agree with you completely.
I know, but I was the only one saying it. The only guy on radio, big radio, the only guy on big TV. Well, that's not true. I didn't hear everybody. So, but you understand.
I do, sir. But it's critically important that they stop using the word credible and use the word sympathetic.
Well, you better write them, because I'm not the problem. But thank you for your call. Yes. Tony, McLean, Virginia, the great WMAL. Go.
Yes, the left is no longer the left. These guys are neo-Bolsheviks. They are making a run at this country. Mm-hmm. And the sooner the Republicans start to demonize these people, the better off we're
going to be. Now, let me just say, do you see any Republicans who are elected to the Senate who are going to do that? I mean, the only one that really well, there are a couple. Lindsey Graham, John Cornyn, those were by far, and this guy Kennedy from Louisiana. Those are the three.
But maybe this falls on your shoulders.
Sure.
Listen, you had Pravda, TASS. You had all these organs, and then now these are the organs of these
Bolsheviks, you call them.
Yeah, and you read the neo-Stalinists. This is what they've done. They use the apparatus of the government to spy and put their...
You do listen to this program, right?
Absolutely, all the time.
I say this all the time.
Well, it needs to be spread. This is...
All right, well, I'm doing my best. Let's keep rolling here. Karen, Sarasota, Florida, on the Mark Levin app. Go.
Yes. Hi, Mark. Regarding Dr. Ford not remembering who got her home, this was no ordinary ride home. When people are rescued from danger, flood, fire attack, they tend to remember who rescued them. And
I'm not buying this drive home stuff that she doesn't know who drove her home. If in fact that's the right date, location, and events that took place that night with allegedly Brett Kavanaugh. This is a critical piece of information, critical, that would tell the difference between yes or no. Yes or no. She remembers she had one beer. She remembers a lot of details, but she doesn't remember details that would result in corroboration.
Correct. Exactly.
And that's very troubling to me. And any prosecutor listening to me knows exactly what I'm talking about. Any litigator listening to me knows exactly what I'm talking about. That is a huge hole. That is a huge hole, and it's just hard to accept.
It's hard to believe she doesn't remember the hero who rescued her. People see...
Maybe it wasn't a hero rescued her. Maybe one of her parents. Have you noticed you haven't heard from her parents?
Yes, I have.
Why?
But had she genuinely been rescued from the danger...
Okay, you've said that 3 times. I don't know if she was rescued. Maybe she had somebody who was going to pick her up as a routine matter. We don't know this as a matter of fact, whether she was rescued or not. My point is, we don't know anything.
Right.
All right. Thank you for your call. We'll be right back. Did you hear what NBC News said? No. What do they say? So every little piece of gossip, every little text, every little thing. But when it comes to Dr. Ford, lots of big stuff. What? I don't want to hear. All of a sudden, everybody's Helen Keller. What are you talking about? What? Mike, Phoenix, Arizona, XM Satellite. Go.
Hey, how are you doing, Mark?
All right, sir. Thank you.
All right, good deal. Hey, I just wanted to say something about Senator Flake. You know, I've known Senator Flake for quite some time, an Arizona native, Arizona Pioneer family from my mom's side. His Flake's family is an Arizona Pioneer family as well. Known them for years. I was on the Phoenix Chamber of Commerce. I was on the board of directors for that for a number of years, owned a really large business there. Anyway, so we would bring different politicians in and so on and so forth. And I remember one time very specifically how Senator Flakey came in. Senator Flakey came in, and he was all giddy about the fact that he was chosen by Obama to come in and to go fly down to Cuba on Air Force One to bring back some type of dissident or political dissident or something like that. And he was just over the moon about this stuff, and he talked about it incessantly. And at the time he said that he went down to Air Force One and hoped one day. I remember him saying this, that one day, something along the lines of, someday he hopes to have Air Force One for his own use or something like that. I can't quite remember.
I suspect that's true. Now, he trashes Trump left and right. I don't ever remember him trashing Obama. Do you?
No, I don't. He never did trash Obama. And one thing that's interesting, that he gave a speech one time there in downtown Phoenix. I showed up to it, and everybody knew that I was a Trump supporter, and I let it be known I was a Trump supporter. We went back to D.C. Back there in a big committee, and all the senators came in, and all these other people came in and talked to us all. And what was interesting is that I ended up having to fly back on the jet with Senator Flake all the way from Reagan all the way back to Phoenix. And let me tell you what, this guy is full of himself, and he's all about Jeff Flake. What's interesting is that all the people up in his region, in the area called Snowflake, Arizona, which is named after his family, Flake, Snow, some guy named Snow, some guy named Flake. They call it Snowflake. And
anyway, go ahead. Yes?
Yeah, that's the name of the town, Snowflake, Arizona. You look up on the map.
Ahead of his time, yes.
I just drove through there not too long ago. Anyway, so all these people, when you mention Jeff Flake, everybody rolls their eyes, and the funny thing is they roll their eyes and they grab their wallets. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so he's known as being somewhat of a used car salesman. They call him, they say something about a snake oil salesman or something like that. And, you know, he's actually a really smart guy.
But here's the thing. And I appreciate all the background. Here's the thing. The media and the left, and they are the same thing, they don't care. If he had a horrific record, it wouldn't matter. He's a useful idiot. And he really is a useful idiot. So is Susan Collins, and so is Lisa Murkowski. These are useful idiots. It's unfortunate that we don't have enough useful idiots on the Democrat side who from time to time really have an epiphany and move on to the Republican side. Have you ever seen a Democrat celebrated by the media who joins with the Republicans?
No, never, ever.
Never, not one, right?
Nope, exactly. And you know one thing that was told to me one time by Senator Barry Goldwater? I was at Goldwater, the young Republicans, Barry Goldwater. I'm sure you know Barry Goldwater. Anyway,
yeah.
Knew the guy real well, and he's the one who got me in the Democratic Party. I'm actually a union guy. I'm an IBEW guy.
Right.
And a union guy, and I came up through the unions, the Democrat, and he's the one that switched me to the Republican Party because he said, "Hey, we like you." And so, but he told me that at one point in our country's future, he said, in the future, you are going to see a division so great it's potentially going to lead to a revolution in this country. And I think we're at that point.
I think if we're not there, we're certainly close, and the left is pushing us into this. They're race baiting. Their attacks on fundamental institutions. They're discrediting individuals, regardless of due process, regardless of proof. It's becoming commonplace now. And of course, they have the media as their mouthpiece. Thank you for your call, buddy. Excellent call. I appreciate it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed the program. We'd like to talk about real substance here, not just the same old, same old. And I hope you'll join us tomorrow, too, and we appreciate it. God bless and be well.